Hey everybody, Brad Linder coming at you again with another card of the day. This one is going to be Wolverine and the Sentinels. Uh, One of my favorite crossover stories. And I went with the classic one. I'm going to share this over with the page real quick so everybody can see. But I went with the classic Sentinel and classic Wolverine because I prefer them. It's the story that I had when I was a kid and hooked on these comics, so that's the direction I went. But yeah, I was trying to do something a little bit more action oriented tonight with impressionism rather than physical response. So, I wanted to get something going that was going to pop up and really, give that typical Wolverine type of impression, a presence. And that's why I sketched it like this, because I didn't want to show just the blood and gore or the typical, ripping of the suit or the claws. I wanted to show that one standoff moment right before the characters went at it, and that was always the one moment building up to it is what I wanted to nail in this session. And I always thought it was cool because they never really showed the build up. It was always just, the motion was there, the action was there, and the strike. But I wanted to see that one pause right there where they test each other and see exactly where they're at. And you get to see that with Wolverine in specific characters, between him and Sabretooth. It's been done a million times. Between he and Cyclops, you get those standoff moments. But I wanted something that really projected the presence and the power of this character in something new and different, and that would really, really stun someone if they saw it. And I think him standing off against a huge, massive robot was the way to go. These Sentinels were stories high. The originals were a little less stacked as far as height, but I mean, if you read the older comics, they weren't 20 stories high. They were about 10 feet high. I mean, they were big enough that the X-Men could fight them one-on-one. But now they've escalated in scale, and now the characters are definitely huge. I mean, they get 20 and 30 and 40 feet depending on the incarnation of them at the time. I always find it fascinating when these characters get to go head to head with the actual X-Men and see them in action. I mean, they're robots, yes, but they still have artificial intelligence working through them, so they have enough of a character build to respond, and that's the cool part about them. You don't see that a lot in the comics anymore, with character development being what it is. Most of it's all about revamping instead of developing the characters that are already there and building them up. That's a massive problem in comics right now, especially mainstream with Marvel and DC. They're not developing their characters like they should be. They're just trying to find, by throwing examples to the wall, they're trying to find what sticks. And they're not working on what's already there. You know what I mean? There's a longevity and legacy to these comics that we don't get to see anymore because of the fact that they don't support them the same way they did. But in this incarnation, though, you're going to get a really cool, smooth look at Wolverine and what he would do in the case of a Sentinel coming at him, which he's done numerous times in the cartoons and comics. And I love that aspect where he just has a simple, clean, what are you going to do, kind of don't mess with me attitude of, it's about to go down kind of thing. And I really, really dig that about the character because none of the others can really do that. Cyclops has the power to, but he never does. You know, he never has that that connection, and I always find that a problem. But I wanted a character that would have to get physical and get hand to hand with them, and you know, I think this is a great tribute to that, especially in practicing my storytelling of my art, because I want to give that, like I said, I want to give that vicious impression of that one snapshot moment was the goal here. And I hope it translates for you guys to enjoy it, because that's exactly what we're going for. So, but before I get back into the first of the year work that I'm doing, I really wanted to step aside for a second and slow down and just really dig into this. And I've been practicing a lot of different things with my comics, and you know, that's why I don't show a lot of the work before it's published, and why I'm waiting so long to get it done. It's not perfectionism, it's a growth time for me, and I wanted to bring that out before I really let you guys get into what I do every single day. And I mean, I've shown samples of my stuff that I've got going on, you know, with books and things that I'm tied to and doing and whatnot. But this is going to be bringing something totally different to the table this year, and it's going to come out full force. And I think that the way that comics are done right now is changing, and I would like to see a lot of the characteristics of these characters come to life in a different way, on a lot more mature level. So many of these things just fall to the wayside, and that's not fair. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that is because of the fact that if you don't know what I mean by it, what I mean by that is because of the fact that the artistic level of storytelling is falling away from these things, and everybody's like, reboot, and I'm just like, nah, I want to tell stories, you know. And I say that all the time to students and stuff. Just one of those things. Find your voice, know your storytelling as your artwork, as well as your script. And if you're doing, especially, you know, if you're doing both, if you can't storytell visually, you're dead in the water, you know, artistically. And as far as learning the craft goes, the best thing that I can share with you in my experience, and you know, there's probably better guys out there to do it, but it doesn't matter. My thing is this: I like to go in and tell the story from the absolute massive perspective, the largest, most impact shot that I can get, and then turn it around and put it on its ear and give you the soft, quiet moment, and then come back and give you another escalating moment. And I love doing that. And people just don't do that in comics anymore. You know, they try to do that on film and try to do it in certain things, you know, cartoons and stuff. But you don't see Marvel do that anymore in the comics. And it's a grave disappointment because they don't do it that way. But because now it's just all, you know, it's either monotonous and it runs through. And not that I'm saying that I'm not a fan of Marvel anymore. It's just I'm tired of seeing the same old stuff, you know, because the big thing is they're saying, well, you know, it's a bad thing, or it's a generational thing, or it's this thing, or it's that thing. And I say it's not at all. I say it's lack of storytelling and lack of creativity, because they go off and do these rehashed stories over and over and over, or they come up and twist them up with the new generational gap that they say is a new story condition, and it's not. It's not at all. You know, I'm sorry. The next generation of characters should be new material. It should not be damaging and revitalizing old material with the next generation through manipulating them to where they don't match up anymore. And I disagree with that model. I think it should be, I mean, granted, I use some public domain characters and things in mind, but what I'm talking about is they're brand new. You know, they've never been done at this level. What I'm talking about is using classic characters like Marvel stuff and throwing it under the bus, you know, all the continuity and all the longevity, just because of the fact that, you know, some people want to revamp it for the modern times, and that means destroying the old. And I'm not for that, because those characters can still be involved at a higher level, and it's just not happening. But you know, it is what it is. It's Marvel, and I have no say on that, and that sucks, but it is what it is. So instead, we get to do our adaptations of these characters like this and best represent them as what we love about the company and the characters, rather than what is being thrown at us and forced to be accepted. So that's sad, but it is what it is. So I thought I would pay an homage to the classic Wolverine and classic Sentinel, and go from there. And then we will move on into some different stuff this week. So it's going to be pretty cool. I got asked yesterday if I was going to stop doing the cards and start doing them weekly instead of every day. And I don't know. I haven't decided yet. A lot of you guys are asking me to stick with it and keep doing it through the new year. And then there's a couple of people that have asked me to move on to the comic books so that we can see those, you know, full time. And I'm cool with that. I can do more pinup stuff, and, you know, like a pinup of the week kind of thing, and move on. If you guys are tired of the cards, and I can go ahead and shoot out the cards, the sketch card series on the book, and go from there and get this Kickstarter that I'm going to be doing to get them out, and then move on, because I'm doing card sets contractually now, and I've got a few of those coming up, and it's okay, you know. If that's what you guys want me to do, I'll stop, but it's going to take a heck of a lot of push to get me to do it. So if you're ready for me to move on, then you know, and lost interest, then that's something I need to know. But I still got a lot of people, you know, I'm getting 50 to 100 views on this thing, you know, and that's not much by Facebook or whatever. But the thing is that they're dedicated people that keep asking me to do it, and I said I would, as long as, you know, the fans wanted to. So that's why I'm putting it out there, because I really, really, really like this. And with the comics coming up, these cards are going to be even more important, because this is, like I said, this is my testing ground, and this is where I experiment with a lot of stuff to keep new techniques, new style growth, and all that. And I know it doesn't look like much on these sketch cards in comparison to what the comics do, but the funny thing about it is, like I was talking about in the beginning, this is an impressionism card. This is that one moment of giving that ultimate, I almost swore there, giving that ultimate heroic moment of not taking any crap from this guy, you know, not taking any crap from this big robot, this big battle droid they sent, and keeping his ground, you know, standing his ground and doing his thing, being him. And that's part of it. That's part of what the magic of that character is that he is the ultimate underdog all the time. And that's the impression that I wanted to give with this particular pose. And I think I nailed it pretty good in his expression there. So, but like I said, coming full circle, you know, there's more stuff to come, and if you guys are ready to move on with these, then that's what we'll do. But he's got like these massive shoulders. It's like, what do you press, man? Oh, 2,000 pounds, man. Don't worry about it. Wheezing the juice, as it were. And if you guys know what Brendan Fraser movie that's from, which I just gave you the hook right there, but if you reference that movie and you know exactly what I'm talking about by that comment, then you'll prove how old you are, is what you'll do. Oh man, it is the weekend, and I am having a blast right now. I have a couple of events coming up. Matter of fact, the books and whatnot are on the table, but the thing is, I also have that art course. Finally, yay! I've been asked to put it on Patreon so that some people can get it, which can't get it otherwise. And I was like, well, maybe. What do you guys think? You think I should put the How to Draw Comics in Patreon? I'm going to be drawing a comic book for that course. I'm going to be actually drawing a comic for that course, and it will run the entire thing. It will run the entire gambit of that. I changed the direction on that line and didn't even realize. It will run the entire gambit of building a page, building the storyline, building the script, all of it, character design, and it's just a little tidbit for you. It builds the character, builds the flow of the page, and builds it out, and we get to see all of that cool stuff come up. So you guys are gonna have to let me know what you think, because if not, I'm gonna put it on Amazon and just post it out there and let you guys buy it either through the site or through Amazon and leave it there. But we'll see. Now I'm drawing in these eye sockets here, just trying to get everybody's attention at the end of the year, you know, and not a buy my stuff moment, but you know, testing out the water to see what everybody's thinking about with all this stuff, and where we're all at. So I am reaching out this very massive robot face. And there's kind of the eyeball right there. And what I'm doing here is I'm putting in this big optic nerve center for that eyeball. And then I'm going to go over here and do the same thing. And like I said, these cards are very sketchy. They're not like what I do in comics, okay? There is a difference in the level. There's a lot more time invested in the comic stuff, so you know it's a lot cleaner, and I don't allow myself the freedom of rambling lines and things like that because of the fact that that stuff has to be done, you know, of quality, or else the editors will just spank me upside the head. I've had it done. I'm not a fan, and I like to do the work, so I like to do the work. So it's always fun. Let's see here. Getting in these camera lenses so we can do the multiple scans and multiple optics and all that for the Sentinel. There we go. Cool deal. That came out a lot better than I thought it would, actually. I know, like I said, I know this one's a little more relaxed, but still, nonetheless, very happy with it. Drawing in this face here. The classic Sentinels were always one of my favorites because they were completely unpredictable. Even though they were on a mission, you never knew what they were going to pop out with, because the thing about the Sentinels is that they always upgraded after every battle with the X-Men, and whenever they would confront them, they would always escalate, and they had such a cool way of doing it, because they would come in and say, okay, I'm going to fight Wolverine. We caught Colossus, but we lost Wolverine. Now we've got to figure out how to take down Wolverine, and that's what their next evolution would be. And then they came out with the Nimrod Sentinels, which were from the future, and they were able to evolve and all that instantly on the spot, which was weird. They would add adaptations. Trying to get 3 words out at one time. Add adaptations on the fly, and that's what made them so cool. And they got super popular really quick. And that was in the late 80s, right in 80. I want to say 87, 88, right around in there, where Bishop and Forge and the types came around. The solo suit types came around, where they had the yellow and blue team suits come back, and they evolved all of it. Wolverine constantly was going maskless at the time and smoking inside the mansion, which ticked Professor X off all the time. And he was buddy with Kitty Pryde. Myra McTaggart was hanging around all the time and helping Beast try to do different things in his lab all the time. She was like his partner in crime, as it were. They were trying to cure select mutants that didn't want to be mutants. They were trying to stop certain mutations from growing. They were trying to stop the phalanx disease. They were trying to come up with new weapons and new science as to why the mutants were the mutants and what caused it, and for those to be able to stop it. So, and they were also trying to find out, at one point they were working with the government to try to find out if they could stop it because of mutants that were doing crime and doing evil things. They wanted to be able to turn their mutation off, which I found that kind of hypocritical, but it was what it was. I mean, it is comics, so they have to go with the storyline, of course, but whatever works, man. I'm gonna put a little shadow right here because I want to kind of dampen that out a little bit along that eye socket. I'm gonna do the same thing here. Just gonna give it a little bit of a shadow. Not necessarily a rim, just an extra shadow to kind of show that this stuff is behind this. And that's how you do that. And most people would leave this open because it's underneath. They would just line it, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna black it out. Look, it's Mickey Sentinel. Oh, was that bad? I'm sorry, was that bad? But let's see here. What else can we do? I'm gonna go in here and shade this lip side down, make it elevate just a little bit. And the funny thing about this is with a lot of this particular model of Sentinel, there was always light from within. The eyes would light up, and this part would light up and have lights come out of it in certain ways and whatnot. It was always well lit, so you could see all the little the robotic details, as it were. But I don't know. I always thought that was a problem, and then I realized that how people like comics. They like them differently, and you have to exaggerate it and put lights in there where lights won't be, because they don't exist in reality that way. But you have to add them to make sure that you can see all the details. And if you don't, you'll wash them out. That's why they do that. And when I found out what they were doing, I was just like, man, that's a totally cool way to do that. It upped my game. It upped my game completely. Let me see where this is going with this, because I know I blocked all this out. I left a couple of lines off when I put in the baseline, and it added extra reach. There we go. Got it. I've done that a lot. I'll put in the dimensions in the sketch, and then I'll change them as I go on the fly, and it's just like, really? But whatever. It works. It does. It works. It works itself out. And you'll see how in just a moment, whenever all this comes up, all these will pop up, and they'll have a heavy three-dimensional look to them. So they'll look really good, actually. I think they'll, at least I hope they do. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are really picky about it, and it's like, that looks like crap, man. You need to get a ruler. No, it's a sketch card. But that still doesn't mean you can slacking off on technique, you know what I mean? You still got to put that through there. But anyway. And I have some covers for Cancer going out, which I have been so far behind on. I had to get those out and get those done. So I've been working on those. And like I said, I got this big event coming up for my sites to relaunch, and I'm so excited. So let's see. Excuse me, scratching my hand there. Had an itch. I couldn't hesitate. I had to get it. Yeesh. Now I have to set these eyes back. There's definitely a rim right here, or a ledge that goes out a little different. And because of the broad scope of it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of a drop shadow back here on this side, but I'm not going to shadow out the whole thing because I want it to look solid for when and contrast whenever I shade these. Okay, cool. That'll work. Now I'll go in and I'll shade these in, and they'll pop up, hopefully looking really cool and three-dimensional. Whoops, I slipped there a little bit. That's a technical term, by the way. Oops. It works out great. Now when I get this one laid out here, I'm going to go back and pop in that connection line right there so they look like they have the gap they're supposed to. So this is coming off really well, I think. And like I said, instead of I'm going to get false lighting in here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go underneath and lights and shadow some of this stuff this way by contrasting with heavy clean shadows, because that's a big problem. Like I said, you know, you got to know those tricks to make them pop up, or else they flatten out and then it looks, you know, exactly that. It looks flat and it looks bad because they just don't have the edge to them that you expect them to look, you know. And Jack Kirby was a master of this. This whole lining thing like this is just incredible the way he used to do this, because he would go in and, you know, do the whole line thing like this and feather it just a little bit like that, and then he would go over here and he would do the same thing and putting these really fine lines to give it that little pop like that. and it gives it that edge that none of the rest of it has. And then you can go in here like this and find a spot. One little spot's all it takes. And you just go in and you find one and you darken it out to show depth behind whatever you're bringing up, and it'll pop it out. So what I'm going to do here, classic comic shading. You guys know how this works. You get a tube or something like that moving through the system, and you put in just one little line to shadow one side of it. And I'll put in like one right here just to bring that out a little. And then put another shadow back there to pop that up and show something's back there. So now you can see the depth of these things. And just those little lines, man, I mean, just those little lines bring it up. You know, just sticking up one side and it'll make it pop right off. No doubt about it. So, excuse me. And see, like on this nose side here, this ridge should lean back to make the cheekbones. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this. I'm going to come in right here along this edge. I'm going to do that. And because it tilts, what I'm going to do is I'm going to catch that corner right there. And to line it out to make sure it's going to line up straight, I'll tip it like that to give me a straight line to go off of an edge. And then by doing this, it shows that tilt on the face where the Sentinel looks like it has a dimension there, and that piece tips in. So now I'll do the same thing on the other side. What I'll do is I'll run along this line right here, about that far, and then I'll tip it back up. And boom, there's the same shadow right there to make it look like it pops. And then to show that's tilting down and smooth, I will put that line there. But just a little bit of detail here. I don't want to do too much here because then it'll make it look like it's all ribbed and outlined and make it look strange, and it won't look right. But right along this edge here, that's how you can show that it's metal and it's a different texture in comparison. Okay. I don't want to get going too much on these because, like I said, I don't want to over detail it and do the Mark Silvestri or Jim Lee thing to where it's totally fleshed out with all these little lines and nicks. That doesn't meet the need of what we're doing here. But I will make it look like metal. Just old school marks, just like that. And that'll show everything out. Now on this side, like I said, I'm going to shadow this way so that it'll give it some more texture without looking like solid blacks. You know what I mean? That's the big thing, not to black it all out. Just give a heavy undershadow like this, and we won't have any problem. Boom, done. Just like that. So that pops it out a little bit without choking out the detail. Hope you guys can see that. And because this one's on the curve, I'll tip it downward this way and give it a little bit of a pop. Same thing over here in the corner. Since this one's going this direction, I'm going to make it go like that. And the reason you change the directions like that is because it makes them show the edge of the curve a little different. Instead of them curving one direction, they curve the other. And see, they have a different tilt to them so that they look organic and separate. A lot of people don't do that, and it's just, come on, man, you know, put in the little details. Put it in, put it in, put in the details. So, all right, got that going. Now, I like doing this kind of thing here, this old school type of detailing, because of the fact that everybody wants to be color dependent, you know, so they wipe these out and make them super thin lines, and they don't do this anymore. I prefer to do it by hand like this because of the simple fact that the result is nostalgic to me, as just to, you know, the handcraft itself of putting in all these effects and not depending so much on the pencils, not putting so much into the pencils or the technology. You know, you have to know the craft yourself and go in and do it. You can't put it into the brushes, is what I mean. You know, don't support your tools to where your tools do the job for you. Have them master the craft, you know what I mean, through your hand as an extension thereof, rather than getting all crazy with it. Because so many people just go, well, you know, I'm a digital inker, or I'm a digital penciler, or I just do digital. You know, it's old school. You know, like I saw Todd McFarlane draw today. He was drawing one of the Star Wars progs, I think they're called, little penguin animals, and, you know, the little Furby looking things. And he said he was going old school today and reprised how cool it was to go off and do, you know, that kind of work with a page and, you know, a pen and whatnot. And I was like, really, dude? You act like you hadn't done it in 30 years, man. And I was just like, ugh. And I love Todd's stuff to death. You know, I love Todd's work. It's awesome. But it's just getting commonplace where, you know, the tablet and the brushes and all that, doing the effects for people. Because he was complaining about the white. And I was like, the white on what? And he was like, the details in the eyes, you know, kind of thing. And really? You need a brush for that, man? Because you can't, you know, leave a white space open. It just, come on. To me, that's lazy. It's not, in my opinion, it's lazy art to do it that way. I'm not saying you shouldn't use technology to your advantage, because I use coloring. I digital color all the time, okay? I don't like to ink digitally because I think it looks flat like vector work. But what I'm saying is, and I'm not bashing on anybody or anything, what I'm saying is specifically is that I think it's lazy when you can't do the technique by hand, because you've gotten so accustomed to a brush or a program or whatever doing the work for you. Now that's a problem. That is a huge problem. And a guy like Todd shouldn't have that going on. You know what I mean? I'm just saying he shouldn't be at that level to where he sinks and has to whine about not doing whites. So that's bothersome. And, you know, for shame on him for doing that, if that's the case, because, you know, he's an artist. He should be able to do the craft. Just come out and draw something, you know, dude. And who am I to say that? I'm the artist that does it every day. So, you know, I have the right to say that. I have the privilege of saying that because of the fact that I am doing it in the trenches every day, just like everybody else. And, you know, if he's copping out, then that's his problem. But, so, you know, am I better than Todd McFarlane? No. Am I better known than Todd McFarlane? No. Am I any less of an artist than Todd McFarlane? No. So that's the fact right there. So I'm not better. He's just a fellow artist. But you know, that's, and like I said, I don't want it to become a Todd McFarlane rip, because that's not what I'm doing. I just use him as an example for that. You know the techniques, know what you're doing. See how this is all fleshed out now? That's what I'm saying. Know your craft. And if you want to learn how to do that, I can show you. That's what I'm saying. Like I said, no sales pitch, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But the thing of it is, you got to be able to back it up. And here you go, right here. So here's the shadow underneath this arm, shoulder pad, or whatever you want to call it, this armor that's over his shoulder here. Now you come down in here, cut in the shoulder, and we have typical Wolverine pattern hair. Okay, cool deal. Cut in that bicep a little heavier, so we have a prominent line there. And now we have, I hope, what you like as the Wolverine and the Sentinel standoff. Hope you guys dig it. I'm going to put in a couple more stipples here for there we go. Cool deal. Hope you guys dig it, man. That's where we're at for this Saturday evening, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow with another one. Hope you like it, and like I said, as always, make the place a better joint than when you found it. Hug somebody, laugh, smile, make somebody feel good that you didn't have to, and expand on that as best you can. And you know, like I said, man, make somebody smile, and have a great one. So that's it from me. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your evening.